continuing on in this conversation about storage and lithium. We happen to have the lithium king with us today, James Calaway. He is a renowned worldwide expert on this matter. He is the chairman of Orocobre Limited, and he will continue on and provide a little more depth. Thank you, James.
Hi, my name is James Calaway. It's great to be here. Chip, thank you so much for bringing these incredible people together. It's been a great experience for me to be here. Now, I have to say, I was listening to all these speeches, and I hate to admit this, but I come from Houston, and I've lived there my whole life. I started my career in the oil and gas business, and I feel like sometimes there ought to be a bullet, a little thing on my head to be shot because of all that. But I do want you to know that I recovered from that experience. I'm reformed, and I gave up the oil and gas business and sold it all off in 2000. Now, some people think I'm an idiot because I sold it off right before this dadgum resource fracking play went off, but I don't miss the money at all because for the last years, my twin brother and I have devoted ourselves to a clean future and a renewable future. But we're practical business guys, and we spend our time working on things where you can make money and do good. I've heard a lot of interesting ideas around here, but in the end, I personally believe that when you bring together a commitment to the future, commitment to a clean future for our children and for the world, and have to have the discipline of making money, you have a chance to really scale and be important in that transition. And so that's what I've been doing. Now, I just want to tell you kind of a funny little anecdote, is that I didn't get into the lithium business 7 years ago because one day I woke up and said, gee whiz, I want to be in the lithium business, because I didn't even know what the hell lithium was, nor did I know where it was or how to produce it 7 years ago. But it was just down the road here at the Aspen Ideas Festival, the Aspen Institute, 7 years ago, where the theme of the whole conference was the intersection of military risk associated with our dependence on oil and the environment, and how those two big ideas came together in solutions. And it was very interesting because there was sort of this sideline conversation with a bunch of, mainly, quite frankly, academics who were having this fascinating debate about how electric propulsion might be a critical solution, given the fact that 70% of the world's oil is devoted to transportation. And I went home thinking about that, could not get it out of my brain. My family wanted me to get it out of my brain so I could focus on practical things. And instead, I spent the next year going to battery conferences and going to listen to anybody who would tell me about electric propulsion. And being the practical guy I am, after about a year, I had stacks and stacks of papers on my desk, everything from, national organizations, research organizations, universities, lots of company presentations. And at the end, I just couldn't figure out how to make a financial bet on this future in transportation. It was just confusing. And by the way, I still believe it's confusing as to who's going to win in these battles. So everybody thinks Tesla's going to win. Maybe so, but I wouldn't count on it. So I actually one day woke up and was about to give up, and oh my God, I think I remember something. In the back of all these pages, there was all this chemistry. And I'm not a chemist, but I looked at it and I said, I think every single one of these papers had only one thing in common. They all needed Li. I said, now that's a business idea that works, because then I don't have to worry so much about who's going to win all these crazy battles. They're all going to need lithium. And so that took me off to become this lithium guy. And I hired a team. I said, look, I know where Saudi Arabia of lithium is. It's in the Atacama Desert of Chile. Everyone knew that. You could go on Google and 5 minutes know that was the truth. 50% of the world's production comes from one giant salar in Chile. The big question at that time, though, was, well, where's Kuwait of lithium? Now, that was a harder thing to figure out. Hired a team, went all over the world. They came back and said, I got good news and bad news. We think we know where it is. Bad news, it's owned by a little teeny public company in Australia called Orocobre that doesn't even know really what they've got yet. And I said, okay, if I could buy that company and be the chairman of that company, I could make money. And that began my odyssey to be where I am today. So this is a cautionary statement. Let's see, we'll go to the next. I have to say that because we're a public company, sorry. So I'm going to quickly run through this. This is a little primer. So lithium, just for y'all that aren't crazy about lithium, it's the lightest of all the metals. That's why it's so important. It's a great conductor, and it's incredibly light. It's the third element on the periodic table. It doesn't exist by itself because it would just vaporize and heat and blow up on you. It's always connected to something else, and we have to produce that lithium. Actually, we don't produce lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide, but it comes in two places. Part of it is in hard rocks. It's all over the world. There's hard rocks with lithium in them with different amounts of concentrations. You can get it out of hard rocks. It's just a question of how much it costs to do. And hard rock production is generally about 2 to 3 times as expensive to produce as the lowest cost way to produce it, which is from brines. And there are these big salt flats in these odd places, very few places, basically around the Chile-Argentine border. By the way, a lot of people hear about Bolivia. Forget about Bolivia. It's got one big salar, but the chemistry's terrible, so it's never going to be commercial. It's basically Chile and Argentina, just up where these countries come together, and in the Tibet Plateau, but generally non-accessible, and that's where the cheapest production comes. It's basically a market oligopoly, and thank God I'm finally a member of that oligopoly because it's a great place to be. It's hard to be, but it's a great place to be. Now, I'm doing this so fast, it's ridiculous, but in the demand side, most people probably don't realize this, but if you look at the total world production of lithium, only about 27% of all of it right now goes into batteries. The rest of it, ceramics and glass use as much as batteries today, all right? And you got glass itself, and then there's a ton of other applications. If you're depressed, you like to have a little lithium. You can use it for a whole variety of things. I've even thought it'd be fun to get a steering wheel in Houston with a little cowlick on it with lithium, so if you could lick on it when you get too upset with traffic. Good idea for somebody out there. Anyway, that's how it's all broken out in terms of demand. Just so you know, these are all the suppliers. I stuck myself at the top of that. But the truth of the matter is that I'm sort of in this oligarchy. I'm the newest member of this oligarchy. I can't even say the damn word. But anyway, and so you basically have Talison, which is a huge hard rock mine in Australia. And it basically produces from hard rock a concentrate. And they ship it to and you see China there, they ship it to a whole bunch of little converters over there who make it for the Chinese market. Super expensive way to do it, filthy as hell to do. Nobody besides the Chinese have figured out to do it, which tells you it's probably not a very good idea. But anyway, it is what Talison makes and sends to all those Chinese. The SQM, Orocobre, FMC, and Albemarle are the brine producers in the world, and we're the low-cost producers, and we control the rest of the world's market for the lithium production and reserves, by the way. Now, I just thought this would be fun. There's this cool company right now called, I don't know if you heard about Planet Lab, that's shooting all these incredible photographs of the whole world with these little tiny satellites. And I was on their website cruising around, and they said, this is one of our favorite new pictures from space, and it turned out to be my facility in the middle of the Andes at 14,000 feet, which is where we are. That white stuff's the salt flat. It covers 83,000 acres, just so you know, at 14,000 feet. That's 1,000 acres of ponds filled with brine water that's sitting out there cooking in the sun. We add some lime to that to precipitate out some of the impurities. And basically it sits in the sun and cooks up until, which is kind of nice, low power use, cooks up in the sun, precipitates out the bad stuff, and basically gets concentrated, changes colors, and then that little space over there, you see those little dots, that's actually that plant that you saw in the beginning and all the crew facilities and everything. We have to have like a little city out there to do this. And that's where we produce the lithium. All right, so 10 seconds on this. This is lithium demand's growing at about 10% a year, just so everybody knows. But the reason it's only 10% is because it takes into account that most of lithium today is in GDP kind of businesses. So the GDP businesses aren't growing very fast, but the battery segment is growing at a much faster rate and is going to overcome all the others in terms of use. I got 5 minutes, for God's sakes. So battery market, 20%, is growing very, very rapidly and actually accelerating. Tesla's, I don't know whether Tesla is going to win or lose in this battle. I think it's an open question for a variety of reasons. But one thing is undeniable is that Elon Musk's courage, Tesla's courage, is disrupting everybody's time frames in terms of what the heck the world's going to do to compete. It's forcing a lot of automobiles makers' hands. It's driving everybody insane because it's destroying tons of value because all the established firms want to depreciate their assets at a slower rate than Tesla's allowing them. So I think they deserve at minimum credit for being a disruptive force. But I think it's interesting. Yeah, no question about that. You got to give it to him on that. Whether it's going to be a big money maker or a big loser, that's up for debate. But there's no question about this evolution. Cars are better, faster, more wonderful. And I totally disagree with anybody who says we're not going to an electric future. Just not right. And I don't know why we had all those conversations about biofuels. I just do not get that. Anyway, we shouldn't be going that direction. So, look, by the way, it's not just Tesla. We forget about this. It's going on all the way from buses to electric bikes. All through this transportation chain is the electrification, all of it being driven off of different forms of lithium. And here's just a sampling of people who are investing billions of dollars. We hear about Tesla, but there's a lot of others. The big solution with lithium, God, I can't believe it. Okay, so, Seba's unbelievable. And he just unbelievable. Wherever you are, there you are. Seba's presentation just summarized this. He just didn't get enough time to talk about autonomous vehicles. But lithium's going to label all of this. And that's the big solution right there that basically changes the world. And it's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. Now, what's needed? We got to ramp up lithium production. We're going to have to use hard rock, so the price of lithium is going to have to rise. Fortunately, I'll represent about 4 or 5% of the cost of a battery pack, so it's not going to be disruptive. Anybody says you can't have lithium enough, that's not true. It's just a question of price. But I like to be like the Saudi Arabia, producing at 2,000 tons when it goes up to 7,000, 8,000 a ton for hard rocks. We need a push for electrification of vehicles. We got to deal with solar overtaking natural gas. I mean, this is the big banana, man. Where I live, everybody just laughs at all this. We got tons of natural gas. It's not really true. That's a big problem. We have to beat natural gas. Now that we've beaten coal, we got to go beat natural gas, and then it's over. Yeah. And then I would just add, I really think autonomous vehicles are a huge game changer because we don't need so many damn cars to begin with. That's really a good news. We need to get rid of cars. I can't wait to not own a car. I mean, really, come on, man. That's a great game changer. And it's here. So it's a big part of the picture. And unfortunately, I got to come to the bad thing, which is mass storage and to deal with power intermittency. This is the part where we need a lot more research and development and help because this is the sort of the final piece that's coming along, but it's lagging, in my opinion, the others. We got to deal with this because that makes this whole thing really work. Now, finally, I can't help myself. I think the government has a role in this, okay? It's not by itself sufficient. This is a private sector-led revolution. That's the good news. We're going to all make a ton of money disrupting this terrible world we've lived in. So that's the good news. Billions and trillions are going to be spent. But we do need government policy to help us along. And this is what I think. First of all, thank you, Mr. President, for finally starting real policy that takes on externality costs. This is incredible that we cannot find a way to be honest about the externality costs. We need to deal with that. And that's second, and I think his new policy begins to do that. The next is we need to have an aggressive tax on hydrocarbon use, for God's sakes. It's time. We need to do it. Number 3 is we need to encourage electric car adoption through subsidies and benefits, not just subsidies and benefits. This is my last slide, by the way. I know I'm run over. We need to maintain these tax benefits for renewable energy right now during this critical transition. And why Congress keeps messing with that and not extending these critical credits to create predictability for an industry that's changing the world is irresponsible on the part of Congress. So we should be beating the hell out of them and voting people out who have these crazy, nonconformist views. Number 5 is we need to accelerate the policy issues as it relates to autonomous future. I know I'm over. Look, I'm the only person talking about lithium here today, God's sake. So look, on this, let me just say this, that on this autonomous future, the technology question, it's over. We've got to have the technology now. So it's really going to be more about creating the policy framework and the control systems and all of the regulatory frameworks that really need to be accelerated to catch up with the technology future that's in front of us. And I just think we need to get on with putting a lot more federal dollars into mass storage research. And just the last thing, nobody's talked a lot about this. It's impossible to build huge transmission corridors from where the best sun is and the best wind is to where the hell the people live. Because we got too many environmentalists standing in the way of huge transmission corridors, which will help save us. We need to stop this nonsense. We need to build big corridors from the central part of the country in the southwest and take this power that's cheap and clean to the centers that use this power. We need to get over this, and we need to get together as a country and accelerate, in my opinion, these power transmission corridors so that we can really get to low-cost renewable electricity for the world. Thank you very much.